Welcome, intrepid explorers, to a journey back in time. A time when the American West was not just a map, but a raw, untamed wilderness, a land of towering peaks, unforgiving plains, and rivers that carved paths through the unknown. This was the domain of the mountain man, not the romanticized figure of campfire tales, but a grizzled, resourceful survivor, intimately acquainted with the edge of existence. They lived a life of brutal independence, trapping beaver, charting new territories, and facing every day as a test of their endurance. But how did they survive? How did these solitary figures, hundreds of miles from civilization, sustain themselves against the gnawing hunger and the relentless cold? Forget your modern supermarkets, your balanced diets, your 3 square meals. The secret of the mountain man diet wasn't about choice. It was about pure, unadulterated survival. It was a diet dictated by the unforgiving rhythm of nature, a testament to human ingenuity, and often a gamble with starvation itself. Today, we peel back the layers of legend to uncover the harsh, fascinating, and utterly essential truth of eating to survive in the 19th century wild. Join us as we explore the culinary world of America's original extreme eaters. Chapter 1: The Relentless Pantry. A landscape of scarcity and opportunity. Imagine a world where your next meal isn't just a matter of convenience, but a life-or-death pursuit. For the 19th century mountain man, this was reality. The American West was a land of extremes, bountiful in moments, desolate in others. Their pantry was the land itself, and it demanded intimate knowledge, endless patience, and often brutal violence. The seasons dictated everything. Spring brought the promise of returning game and nascent plant life, though often still lean after a harsh winter. Summer was a time of relative abundance, when game was fattest and berries and roots could be found. But then came autumn, a frantic race against the clock to lay in provisions before winter's icy grip descended. Winter, of course, was the ultimate test, a period of scarcity, deep snows, and frozen rivers, where a single misstep or a failed hunt meant certain death. Their hunting grounds stretched for hundreds of miles, from the majestic Rockies to the vast prairies. They were acutely aware of animal migration patterns, water sources, and the subtle signs of the wild. Every footprint, every broken twig, every distant call held a clue. They weren't just hunters. They were ecological sensors, reading the landscape like an open book. This wasn't sport. It was subsistence. The mountain man's existence was a constant, grueling pursuit of sustenance, an endless cycle of search, kill, and consume. And when the hunt failed, as it often did, starvation was a specter that loomed large. Chapter 2: The Primacy of Protein. Meat, meat, and more meat. If there was one defining characteristic of the mountain man diet, it was its overwhelming focus on meat. This wasn't a choice for Atkins enthusiasts. It was a biological imperative. Protein and fat were the fuel that powered their arduous lives. Without them, there was no strength, no warmth, no survival. The king of the plains: bison, buffalo. The American bison, or buffalo, was the ultimate lifeline for the mountain man, especially those venturing onto the plains. A single bull could weigh over 2,000 pounds, providing a staggering amount of meat, fat, hide, and bone. A mobile grocery store and hardware supplier rolled into one. Hunting a buffalo was a perilous undertaking. It required skill, a steady aim, and often a well-trained horse. Once downed, the work truly began. The entire animal was utilized. The lean muscle was cut into strips and dried, becoming jerky, the portable, long-lasting staple. The fat was meticulously rendered, a precious commodity. Organs were often consumed first, the liver, kidneys, and heart providing vital nutrients often lacking elsewhere. Even the tongue was considered a delicacy. A successful buffalo hunt could provide weeks, even months of sustenance, acting as a buffer against leaner times. The backbone of the mountains: deer, elk, and bear. In the forested mountains and valleys, deer and elk were more common prey. Agile and elusive, hunting them required stealth and patience. Elk, being larger, offered more meat, while deer provided a consistent, if smaller, yield. Like the buffalo, every part was valued. Hides became clothing or shelter, bones were fashioned into tools, and sinew became thread. Bear, particularly grizzly bears, were formidable adversaries, but a successful bear hunt was a windfall. Bear meat, while sometimes tough, was edible, but it was the bear fat that was truly prized. Rich in calories and a highly efficient energy source, bear grease was often rendered down and stored in bladders, used for cooking, waterproofing, and even as a primitive form of medicine. The sheer caloric density of bear fat was invaluable for men burning thousands of calories daily. Small game and fowl, the frugal fillers. While large game was preferred, the mountain man couldn't afford to be picky. Rabbits, squirrels, marmots, beaver, and various types of fowl like grouse or wild turkeys supplemented the diet when larger game was scarce or too dangerous to pursue. These smaller animals provided immediate calories, though their caloric return was significantly lower for the effort expended. Traps were often set for these creatures, a more energy-efficient method than stalking. For a man facing starvation, even a scrawny rabbit was a lifeline. Chapter 3. The Forgotten Fats. Energy for the trail. In our modern world, where dietary trends often demonize fat, it's easy to forget its fundamental, life-sustaining power. But for the 19th century mountain man, fat wasn't just desirable, it was quite simply life itself. It was the ultimate concentrated energy source, providing a staggering 9 calories per gram, more than twice the energy offered by either protein or carbohydrates. In a world defined by extreme physical exertion and relentless cold, where every single calorie counted, fat was not a luxury. It was the biological imperative that fueled their very existence. Imagine the daily life of a mountain man, trudging through waist-deep snow, scaling rugged mountains, paddling against powerful river currents, hauling heavy traps, and skinning large game in sub-zero temperatures. Their bodies were constantly burning thousands upon thousands of calories, easily upwards of 5,000 to 7,000 a day, often more during peak activity. Lean meat alone, though packed with protein, simply could not provide the sustained, dense energy required to maintain body temperature, muscle function, and sheer endurance in such a harsh environment. Their very survival hinged on a continuous, robust supply of animal fat. Their bodies, stripped of excess, became finely tuned engines, craving the most efficient fuel available. The liquid gold, rendered animal fat. The mountain man was a master of maximizing every part of a kill, and the fat was often prized above even the leanest cuts of muscle. Rendered animal fat, particularly from buffalo and bear, was considered liquid gold. When a buffalo was successfully hunted, after the prime cuts of meat were taken for drying, the thick layers of fat, especially the hump fat and the fat surrounding the intestines, were meticulously stripped away. This raw fat was then boiled down in a kettle over a fire. As it melted, impurities rose to the top, and the pure, golden tallow was carefully skimmed off and stored. Buffalo tallow, though solid at room temperature, provided immense caloric density and could be combined with dried meat to create pemmican, the ultimate survival superfood. This systematic rendering ensured that not a single precious calorie was wasted. Bear fat, or bear grease, held an even higher esteemed place. Bears, especially before hibernation, accumulate thick layers of incredibly rich fat. Grizzly bear fat, known for its superior quality and taste, was highly sought after. Unlike buffalo tallow, bear grease often remained semi-liquid or soft, even in cooler temperatures, making it easier to consume directly or mix with other foods. Once rendered, bear fat was carefully stored in cleaned animal bladders or stitched rawhide bags, sealed for preservation. It wasn't just food. It was also used to waterproof leather, lubricate gun mechanisms, and even as a primitive salve for wounds or chapped skin, demonstrating its multifaceted value. A successful bear hunt, therefore, was a significant windfall, providing a versatile and long-lasting energy source. The immediate rush. Bone marrow. Beyond rendered fats, another crucial, often immediately consumed, source of energy was bone marrow. After a large animal kill, the long bones of buffalo, elk, or deer were cracked open, and the rich, creamy marrow was scraped out, or sucked directly. This soft, fatty substance was incredibly palatable, easy to digest, and provided an immediate vital shot of concentrated energy and warmth. For a man who might have been days without a substantial meal, fresh bone marrow was an instant life-giver, a visceral connection to the nutrient density that kept him moving forward. It was often the first part of a fresh kill to be consumed, a testament to its immediate value. The mountain man's relentless pursuit of fat was not about indulgence, it was about metabolic efficiency. Fat provided sustained energy, kept them feeling satiated for longer periods, and crucially, helped their bodies generate heat from within, a biological furnace against the biting cold. It made lean, dried meat more palatable and digestible, turning a tough protein into a more complete meal. Their profound, intuitive understanding of this vital nutrient, long before the advent of modern nutritional science, highlights their deep attunement to the demands of their environment and the absolute necessities of survival. Their diet, high in fat, was not a choice. It was the stark, undeniable secret to their astonishing endurance in the wildest corners of 19th century America. Chapter 4. Plant-based provisions. More than just meat. While meat was king, the mountain man's diet wasn't exclusively carnivorous. They knew the land, often learning from their Native American counterparts, to identify crucial plant-based provisions. These were less about daily sustenance and more about seasonal supplements, providing vital vitamins and minerals often lacking in a purely meat-based diet. Wild edibles. Nature's pharmacy berries were a welcome treat and an important source of vitamin C, crucial for preventing scurvy. Wild raspberries, huckleberries, currants, and chokecherries were gathered in season, often consumed fresh or dried for later use. Roots and tubers like camas, wild onions, and various potato-like plants were dug up. These provided some carbohydrates and essential nutrients, though they required effort to find and prepare. Nuts, such as piñon nuts in the Southwest, offered calories and fats when available, though they were geographically limited and often required significant processing. These wild edibles were a critical, if seasonal, component of their diet, providing variety and preventing deficiency diseases. Their knowledge of these plants was often the difference between health and chronic illness. Foraged greens and limited cultivated goods. While less common, some mountain men would occasionally forage for wild greens like dandelion leaves or nettles, especially in spring, to provide roughage and vitamins. However, these were not a significant part of their caloric intake. Cultivated goods were a rare luxury, primarily obtained at annual rendezvous or from trading posts. Coffee was highly prized, often traded for and savored sparingly. Tobacco was almost universally used, seen as a comfort and a way to pass the time. Flour was an extreme rarity, usually reserved for special occasions or when trading was possible. These items were not survival staples, but highly desired comforts from the world they had left behind. Chapter 5. The Art of Preservation. Battling Spoilage. In a world without refrigeration, preservation was not just a skill, it was a matter of survival. A successful hunt meant a temporary abundance, but meat spoils quickly, especially in warmer months. The mountain man mastered ancient techniques to extend the life of their precious protein. Jerky. The ultimate trail food. Drying meat into jerky was the most common and effective preservation method. Strips of lean meat, typically from buffalo, deer, or elk, were thinly sliced and then dried in the sun or over a low, smoky fire. This removed the moisture, preventing bacterial growth. The result was a tough, lightweight, and nutrient-dense food that could last for months, even years, if kept dry. Jerky was the quintessential trail food, eaten as is or rehydrated in stews. Smoking. Adding flavor and preservation. Smoking was another technique, often combined with drying. Meat was hung in a smokehouse or over a smoldering fire, allowing the smoke to penetrate and act as a preservative while also imparting a distinct flavor. This method was particularly effective for fish and some cuts of meat. Pemmican, the superfood of the frontier. Perhaps the ultimate preserved food was pemmican. This ingenious mixture combined dried, pounded meat, usually buffalo, with rendered animal fat, tallow or bear grease, and sometimes dried berries. The fat acted as a binder and a preservative, sealing out air and moisture. Pemmican was incredibly calorie-dense, lightweight, and could last for years without spoiling. A small amount could provide sustained energy for long journeys or during periods of extreme scarcity. It was the original energy bar, specifically engineered for the rigors of the wilderness. The absence of readily available salt or sugar, common preservatives in more settled areas, forced the mountain man to rely on these natural, low-tech methods. Their success lay in their deep understanding of drying, smoking, and the preservative power of fat, allowing them to carry the bounty of one season into the lean times of another. Chapter 6. The Mountain Man's Cookhouse. Simple tools, ingenious methods. The mountain man's kitchen was the wilderness itself, and their tools were few and simple. A sturdy knife, a tin cup, a small kettle, and fire. Culinary sophistication was irrelevant. Efficiency and effectiveness were paramount. Open-fire cooking was the norm. Meat was often roasted on a spit, hung over glowing embers, or directly cooked on hot coals. Larger cuts might be boiled in a kettle, if one was available, or even in a crudely fashioned hide bag filled with water and heated by dropping in hot stones. This method, though ancient, was effective for creating stews that could utilize tougher cuts of meat and whatever few plants might be available. Their cooking was minimalist, driven by necessity. There were no elaborate recipes, no delicate seasonings beyond what could be found naturally. The taste of freshly killed game, enhanced by smoke and fire, was the ultimate gourmet experience. Cleanliness was a relative term, and resourcefulness was key. If they had a metal pan, they used it. If not, a flat stone over a fire could serve as a griddle for a crude patty of pounded meat. Every piece of equipment served multiple purposes. reflecting their ethos of self-reliance and efficiency. Chapter 7. The Nutritional Realities and Deficiencies. The Price of Survival. While the Mountain Man diet was incredibly effective for survival, it was far from balanced by modern standards. It was a diet of extremes, high in protein, high in fat, and notoriously low in carbohydrates and many essential vitamins. The constant intake of meat and fat provided abundant energy and protein for muscle repair and growth, crucial for their physically demanding lives. However, the lack of diverse plant matter led to specific nutritional vulnerabilities. Scurvy, caused by a severe deficiency of vitamin C, was a constant threat. Symptoms like lethargy, bleeding gums, and open sores were common. Mountain men might try to mitigate this by consuming raw organ meats, particularly liver, which contains some vitamin C, or by seeking out wild berries and greens when available. But sustained deficiency was almost inevitable. Other potential issues included a lack of certain trace minerals and fiber, leading to digestive problems. The diet could also be very monotonous, though for a man focused on survival, taste often took a back seat to caloric intake. This was the starvation cycle, periods of feasting on abundant game, followed by stretches of extreme hunger, often lasting days or even weeks. Their bodies were constantly adapting, burning fat reserves, and enduring extreme caloric deficits. It was a harsh existence, and the long-term health consequences, though unquantified at the time, were undoubtedly severe. Many mountain men lived fast and died young, not just from encounters with wildlife or hostile forces, but from the cumulative toll of their relentless, nutrient-deprived lifestyle. Conclusion. Lessons from the last wilderness. The diet of the 19th century mountain man was not a choice for health or culinary pleasure. It was a stark, brutal testament to the human will to survive. It was a diet shaped by the unforgiving wilderness, by the changing seasons, and by the relentless pursuit of sustenance. From the towering buffalo to the smallest berry, every food source was a gift, hard-won and meticulously utilized. Their story is a powerful reminder of adaptability, resilience, and the intimate life-or-death relationship humanity once had with the natural world. They were masters of their environment, understanding the delicate balance of life and death, bounty and scarcity. Their ability to thrive, or at least endure, on a diet of primarily meat and fat, with limited plant supplements, stands as a remarkable example of human physiological adaptation under extreme duress. Today, their methods offer crucial insights for modern survivalists, naturalists, and anyone interested in the raw mechanics of living off the land. The mountain man diet, while extreme, stripped away all pretense and presented the fundamental truth of eating to survive. Find fuel, preserve it, and stay alive. It's a legacy etched in the very landscape they traversed, a powerful lesson from a forgotten era, whispering the secrets of survival from the heart of the wild.